Hello everyone and welcome to the Friday edition of Political Voice. I am Jude Ikami Jude. A lot trailing, a lot happening that we have to trail for you today on the show. Yes. Now, Tinubu's administration and the APC are increasingly becoming very, very unpopular. And this is coming from Lukman. Now, we will also be looking at the fact that the court has ordered the federal government to reopen trial of killers of a veteran journalist, Dele Giwa, and of course, other orders. Now, but before then, let's take a look at the political happenings around the world. But then, we will begin in Africa, where West Africa's main regional bloc, ECOWAS, on Friday called on authorities in Senegal to set a new date for the presidential election in accordance with a ruling that its postponement to December was unconstitutional. Now, a bill that delayed the February the 25th vote and plunged the country into electoral uncertainty was overturned on Thursday by Senegal's Constitutional Council. But it was unclear whether President Macky Sall would comply with the Council's request for the polls to be held as soon as possible. The week-long electoral crisis has already led to violent protests and warnings of authoritarian overreach in one of the coup-hit West African more stable democracies. And also, Alexei Navalny, Russia's most famous opposition leader, died today after collapsing and losing consciousness at the penal colony north of the Arctic Circle, where he was serving a long jail term. The Russian prison service has said. Navalny, who is 47, rose to prominence more than a decade ago by lampooning President Vladimir Putin in the Russian elite, whom he accused of vast corruption, avarice, and opulence. The Federal Penitentiary Service of the Yamalo Netet Autonomous District said in a statement that Navalny felt unwell after a work. He lost consciousness almost immediately, according to a statement. Now, all necessary resuscitation measures were carried out, which did not yield any positive result. Doctors of the ambulance stated the death of the convict. The prison service said, adding that the causes of death were being established. Putin has been told about Navalny's death. Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov said Putin, who is running for election in a month, was shown on a television clip visiting a factory in the Urals. Supporters of Navalny said that they would not confirm if he was dead, but that if he was dead, they believed he had been killed. Slovak President Zuzana Kaputova on Friday sought to block legislation scrapping a special prosecution branch dedicated to high-level crime and lowering punishments for financial crimes by sending them to the Constitutional Court for review. Slovakia's parliament approved the laws introducing the changes last week amidst public protest as well as concerns, including from the European Union's executive over the bills being pushed through a fast-track procedure. Kaputova told a televised news conference that rather than veto the laws, she would sign them and send them to the court, where she was also seeking their suspension. This would give the court more time for review under a veto, and she said that the court was best placed to decide on the plans amid a conflict between Prime Minister Robert Fico's government and opponents of the overhaul alike, and of course herself. And now to the focus of the day. Yes, the immediate past National Vice Chairman, Northwest of the ruling All Progressives Congress APC, Salihu Moh Lukman, has said that the President Bola Tinubu-led APC administration and the party are increasingly becoming very, very unpopular. Now, Lukman said this is an act and, of course, an open letter made available to journalists. On Friday in Abuja, entitled "The APC and Question of Liability Open Letter to APC Leaders." He said, although the government is taking some measures, which include the directive to immediately release 42,000 metric tons of assorted grains from the strategic reserve to Nigerians, and of course the decisions to set up commodity boards to regulate the prices of food items in the country, the bigger challenge is the issue of guaranteeing local production in the long run. According to him, a number of these issues take Nigeria back to the whole debate around restructuring, which is about adopting a holistic, not piecemeal approach to reforming the Nigerian economy. Now, joining us virtually on this discussion is Fred Nzako. Fred Nzako is a lawyer and a development economist. And we will also be talking to Evan Sufeli. Evan Sufeli is a constitutional lawyer. A very beautiful evening to you, gentlemen. Welcome to the show.
Good evening.
Good evening.
All right. Welcome. Now, let me start with Barrister Fred Nzako. Now, I would love you to help break it down when we hear that the party and, of course, the All Progressives Congress and, of course, Tinubu himself is becoming increasingly unpopular. I mean, I just want you to help us break that down.
Well, if you say it's becoming increasingly popular, the question will be, has the party ever been popular since the days of President Muhammadu Buhari? If the party was popular before 2015, by 2019, the party was no longer popular. But by hook and crook, Muhammadu Buhari won a second-term election and continued in the manner of speaking, continued his ineffective administration that left the country comatose. And the party eventually won another election under President Bola Tinubu, which was so questioned by a majority of the people, and which up to today many people believe has been lacking in popular credibility. But it has been settled at the various courts, and then President Bola Tinubu is now the president of Nigeria, irrespective of whatever anybody feels. So when you talk about the popularity of the party, and you go back to the history of the political party, you'll find out that the party has been pushing itself across without receiving that overwhelming popularity as expected. And it is even worse now that following the removal of fuel subsidy and absence of ready-made alternatives, even as we speak, that Nigerians are suffering in very large measures. Recall that Muhammadu Buhari promised to anchor his administration on the tripod of development of the economy, the fight against corruption, and the enhancement of national security. And in all three, his administration failed woefully to achieve even any one.
All right, thank you.
And unfortunately, President Tinubu's administration is taken to be or seen by most Nigerians as the continuation of the policies and programs of Muhammadu Buhari. And that has not made the people to hold the political party called APC in high regards. And when people are expecting that life will get a lot better because of the Tinubu factor.
Let me hold you on. Let me hold you on.
Life has become more challenging to Nigerians. And of course, it is natural that the end result will be...
After the election, you have said that this party, the All Progressives Congress, has never been popular. I mean, I want you to digress. Why did you say this party is not popular, considering the fact that they fought and they won the previous election, the previous general election? Barrister Fred Nzako, are you there? Hold on, please. Barrister Evans Ufedi, are you with us now?
Governance is not.
Barrister Evans Ufedi, are you with us now?
Very well, I'm with you.
All right, welcome back. I was asking, let me come to you now before, I talk to Fred Nzako again. Now, I was saying, I was asking if you would want to tow Nzako's opinion when he said that APC has never been popular. We all knew how they fought, or how they came to power, how they fought and won the last general election. All right. And here we hear someone say that they have never been, popular. Would you want to tell his part?
Apart from the fact that they were never popular, they were also, current President Tinubu was never prepared for this job at all. It showed on the day he was inaugurated. He was in Congress, unprepared, delivered a speech. On that day, he threw Nigeria into doldrum by undertaking an economic policy that was not well thought out. He removed subsidy thoughtlessly. 1 week later, he started looking for a solution. That is not how to lead over 200 million people. You can do that in your house, in your homestead, but that is not how to lead 200 million people. This set of persons were only popular when they were in opposition. When they use True Lai Mohammed and the rest of them, they use propaganda as a tool, a very strong tool to, make the people, Nigerians, feel like they have capacity. And in 2015, they used that propaganda, used INEC, and used so many other factors to defeat the incumbent president then, and got into power 2015. From 2015 till date, Nigeria has been on steady decline economically. If you look at the way we were in 2015 and compare it with the way we are today, you will see that there has never been a point in time from 2015 till date that there have been a rise in our economic fortune or in the standard of living or in the cost of goods and services. It has been a steady decline, a case of a disjointed people who are unable to manage the economy of this country in a way that will bring prosperity. And that is grossly at variance with the oath they took to defend the Constitution. The Constitution said that
Barrister Evans Ufeli, Barrister Evans Ufeli, are you saying because of the policies of the current administration is the reason why you say that the ruling party is unpopular?
Very well. Its policies...
Remember, it is the ruling party.
Yes. It is the ruling party by the emergence of a defective political system. A political system that is not on merit. A political system where both the led, and the leaders compromise the electoral system to bring the current government to power. So having been engaged in that unholy compromise, and the ruling party having indulged in a lot of malpractices, emerged eventually. So there was never a popularity issue here in the first place, because from the day this government was inaugurated into power, it threw Nigerians into doldrum to a point where the cost of living overnight rose to 300%, whereas the minimum wage is still where it is. In fact, last year they came up with a supplementary budget, a devious and devilish supplementary budget, wherein the content of that budget was to service the president's wife, whatever, was to buy a yacht, was an accumulation of profligacy, a budget that is supposed to be a statement of intention, that is supposed to drive the economic fortune of a country, that is supposed to give the country leeway, but they used it as a bazaar. 2024, they come up with another budget. The entire budget is about profligacy. This government have been traveling, Tinubu have been traveling from France to Dubai to Saudi Arabia in the name of looking for investors. But there's no result whatsoever because the economic indices and the policies on ground cannot, it's at variance with all the travels and all the solutions they seek to achieve.
Thank you. Now, let me come to Barrister Fred Nzako. Don't forget that this man, Salihu, is the immediate past national vice chairman of the ruling All Progressives Congress, APC. And now, if you say that this party is unpopular, I still want to remain there. If you say that this party is unpopular, would you now rather want to look at other parties, or would you want to say that there are other parties that are more popular than the ruling party currently? And let's also look at the fact that the APC is stronger now. Would you want to say the same thing with the opposition party, the People's Democratic Party? You said that the party is unpopular yet stronger, and now the PDP is not finding its bearing at all. How are we going to place that?
Well, you first have to realize that the issue of popularity of a political party must have a basis for assessment. How do you assess the ruling APC? And that was why I said that APC was only popular before 2015, when they were in opposition, and such popularity stemmed from unbridled, wicked propaganda against the ruling PDP, against the government of President Jonathan then. And by hook and crook, the APC came into contention and became the governing party in Abuja in 2015. And all the hopes and expectations, all the promises made to the people were all dashed. None, not even one, was fulfilled. So what is the basis for anybody saying that APC is popular? A party can be popular before election based on its agenda and manifesto, during election based on its display of electoral integrity, and after election based on the party's ability to bring dividends of good governance to the people. Out of all this, tell me which one can be ascribed to APC?
Okay.
Since 2015 up till today, APC has failed Nigerians. I say this without fear of contradiction, because we expected that the government of President Tinubu will be a marked departure from the failure of President Buhari. But unfortunately, like my brother Evans said, President Tinubu made a pronouncement on the day of his inauguration that has thrown Nigerians under the bus and made his government not only suspicious, unpopular, but is drawing the ire, the anger, and the frustration from the people. For the first time in Nigeria, we are seeing families selling their own children to feed others. It happened, and some people laughed over it. For the first time in the history of Nigeria, under the APC, the rate of suicide and the rate of frustration got so high.
Okay.
So the fact that a party is in power does not make the party popular.
Okay.
Because election is different from popularity.
All right. Hold on, please.
I agree with Evans that the process that brought APC was way far from being credible. We expected that if APC had governed well since 2015, it would have been popular. But there is no more argument about the failure of the party to deliver good governance to the people.
Thank you, Barrister Fred Nzako. Now, let me get to Evans Ofeli now, quickly. I am sure that some party members, members of the All Progressives Congress, watching us right now would want to find out from you, the concept, your own concept of popularity. Why you feel that the party is not popular? Okay, 2-in-1 question, if you don't mind. Would you now want to say, if the party is unpopular, is the party breaking?
Well, you see, the decision of the ruling party, its policies determines largely its popularity. Okay? Now, if you gauge the level of dissatisfaction and disgruntlement of citizens in the country, is a big indicator to determining where we are as a people. Now, when you look at it, just a few days ago in Niger State, there was a widespread protest by women who, by virtue of the high cost of living, became disgruntled and took to the streets to protest against this government. Now, what this government did was to arrest them and elderly women and put them in detention. Okay. In Lagos State, to have similar issues of protest, and in some other places of the country. Now, hunger has reached the level where people are brazenly, telling the government that it's going to be time for revolt, hunger revolt. Okay, anywhere in the world where people are led this way, there is no way there will not be a backlash, because you can't push people to a point where if they cannot move any longer, they will come against you. That is exactly what is going on. And with the indications, you remove subsidy, you said you should have a free fall of the naira for the forces of demand and supply to determine it. The said currency is not strong enough to even stand on its own feet. It cannot even buy itself. And you now have different kind of policy. The exchange rate, you could not manage the economy. With the CBN, the economic team, ministers, the president put together, cannot. Just yesterday, the president has gone as far as criticizing analysts who are talking about the economy, the worst state of the economy, saying that even when the person whom he directed it to indirectly did a very fair assessment of the economic policy of the country, that's Bismarck Rewani, and some other economists in the country. The president has gone as far as making jest of whatever it is they are talking about, analyzing the country. So it is a government, a party that is not even willing to learn, let alone to change its ways. So, but by and large, it is actually good for Nigerians, what is going on.
Okay.
There comes a time in a man's life where he's going to learn his lessons. During the elections, we shouted that do not sell your vote, do not compromise. A lot of citizens threw that to the wind. Some of them collected money and voted. Some of them even went as far on the street to intimidate other voters because they have been paid, and force the hand of the public to this direction. Here comes the consequences.
All right. Okay.
The consequences.
Okay.
The consequences is that things will get bad, from bad to worse, and to worse, because it's clear that this government have no capacity, the government have no strategy or method. In times of famine, in times of economic recession and downturn, this government have no strategy to resuscitate the economy. Or look at the issue of power supply. The national grid is down now as we speak. Okay, look at the cost of living as we'll take a look at basic amenities, public health care. Okay, these are areas that we thought that by now this government would have at least laid foundation or set the agenda. Now the government is stranded. It does not even know what to do and what not to do.
All right.
So
let me get to. Thank you. Thank you so very much. Let me get to Barrister Fred Nzako. Is the government not doing enough? Some will say yes. But then, let's also think of the immediate release of 42,000 metric tons of assorted grains, from strategic reserves, to a lot of Nigerians. And of course, the decision to set up commodity boards to regulate the prices of food items in the country. Would you want to rather say that the federal government is taking the right step and, of course, leading to the right direction?
The idea of the policy of releasing 42,000 metric tons of grain to Nigerians is a temporary short-term measure, which of course is not a bad one, but it will not solve the problem. The problem remains, the solution lies on productivity and capacity of the people to produce what they eat. This idea of leasing grains, as much as one can call it a temporary measure, I tell you that will not solve the problem.
What do you think the government should do, to boost local production as it were, like right now? Immediately.
Before I come to that, the other idea of setting up commodity board is a clear example of lack of knowledge of what to do, because we operate a laissez-faire free market economy. If you can allow the dollar to float, how come you are now setting the prices of food items that you don't even have? So it is an anachronistic measure that will not yield any positive result. The idea of setting up commodity board is a military knee-jerk approach to governance. It's in the news that one agency of the federal government called Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Council had gone ahead to seal a supermarket in Abuja, but for the accusation that they sold items higher than ordinary, that they sold more than they should. Their prices were higher than they should be. I can tell you that that is a very shameful step. And if the federal government, the leaders at the center have not heard about it, they should very quickly call that commission to order and tell the agency that what they are doing is ultra-vires their authority as a commission. You do not set prices or determine prices of what you don't have. The only way you will determine prices is to make sure that the forces of demand and supply are brought into play. Once there is scarcity, prices are bound to increase. It's a simple natural logic in every economy. You don't need to be a professor of economics to know it.
Okay.
That scarcity breeds high pricing. Now, if you're asking me what should the government do, one of the measures that government must do is, one, provide adequate security for people to be able to go to farm. Because the Nigerians are facing existential challenges of even feeding themselves. Out of the three basic necessities of life, food, clothing, and shelter, none is available to Nigerians as we speak. So it's a basic existential threat. And one of the measures to ensure that it is solved is to provide security for people to be able to go to farm. There are crops that take just a few weeks, like vegetables, to produce. There are crops that take a few months to produce. But when they cannot go to farm and farm, there's no way they will harvest.
All right.
The second measure is that government must minimize taxation and ensure that there's free flow of produce from one state to another. This idea of stopping lorries carrying food items at every check, by the time you travel from a food basket of the nation, let me use for example Benue State to a place like Lagos State, the truck driver will tell you that he will go through nothing less than 100 checking points, and at each point money is spent. By the time the goods come to Lagos or to their final destination, the prices go up. Though these are basic things that are not difficult to handle. But government will close their eyes and pretend as if they don't know that these challenges exist. Taxation is another major problem that is at the hand of the government. Reduce the taxation and provide the basic agricultural inputs for the people. These things are elementary issues that the government can handle, and before you know it, there will be food supply to the people of Nigeria.
Thank you so much. Now, I would also, this question, I would want to ask, put it to Barrister Evans. But before him, let me just seek your opinion. Just 2 minutes now. Now we're talking, the country is talking about, you know, adopting a holistic approach to solve all of these issues. And of course, reforming the Nigerian economy. Now, should we at this point in time, like I said, just 2 minutes, should we at this point in time talk about full-scale restructuring of the country? 2 minutes, please.
There's never a time that is late for us to really sit down and restructure this country. And the time to do that is now. The Chinese language will tell you that the time to plant a tree was 30 years ago, and the best next time is now. The best next time to restructure Nigeria along the line of true fiscal federalism is now. And that is the only way it will unlock the potentials in this country and make life more meaningful for the teeming population of Nigeria.
Thank you so very much. Thank you. Barrister Barrister Evans Ufeli, what do you think? Restructuring now or what?
Well, the issue of restructuring is long overdue. The kind of political system or governmental system that we practice is one that leaves the country with so much wastages and inarticulations. Okay, when you look at the kind of the cost of governance, it's part of the issues militating against our development. We have a heavy, huge tax that what the country produces is almost always expended on the leaders, which are less than 1% of the population. So the larger society, they are left to their fate to battle with all. That is why you see the rate of criminality and crime has risen. Banditry, different kind of insurgency and all that has risen. So if we don't restructure, it's critical we restructure now. Okay. Restructuring will mean that we need to do what we call a federal system of government. What we have is not. It is on paper, but it's not in practice. So we need that situation where every state can manage its resources and drive its own processes, and the states will become competitive. We once had it in 1963, but we lost it when the military struck on the 15th of January 1966. But since then, we've not been able to resuscitate that particular pattern. We need to go back there, and we have to do it now.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I will remain with you, Barrister Evans. Barrister Evans, the Federal High Court. I want us to talk on something else. Let's touch on something else quickly before we move. I hope Barrister Fred Nzako is still there with us.
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you so much. Now, the Federal High Court sitting in Abuja today ordered the federal government to reopen the investigation and prosecution of those who were involved in the murder of the founder of Newswatch magazine. I'm talking about Dele Giwa. What do you think at this point in time, after how many years, revisiting this case?
Yes, it is important that this case be revisited. Crime does not run against the state. Okay, with criminal prosecution, it's never statute bar. So the allowance to do that is very much there for the federal government to undertake. It is important because that was one debt that shook the country at the time, and the perpetrators of that have not been brought to book. So it is not out of place to order that case be reopened, so that the perpetrators will be put where they belong. That is exactly what serious countries of the world do. They make sure that they investigate matters properly, prosecute them properly, and allow the principles of justice and justice as it were to be the order of the day. When that happens, it places society on the threshold of merit. It gives society, it gives the people, the led, a sense of belonging. The leaders will now enjoy the fellowship they have with the people, and you have prosperity. That is how countries develop and grow. But where you are not able to solve riddles like this, the former ones and the immediate ones, the remote and immediate issues like this, you're unable to solve any of them.
Barrister Evans, what would you say happened? Why did we put this case aside all this while? Why has investigation not continued all this while? And now, all of a sudden, we're looking at cases of extrajudicial killings of journalists, just all of a sudden at this point in time. Like, some people want to say that there is an undertone to all of this happening now. Would you want to agree with that?
I think it's not, it will not be fair to say that particular investigation was repressed at some point, because I know that that case was one that was talked about during the Oputa panel. That is after a long investigation without result.
That's been several years ago.
Yes, around 2001 or 2000 or thereabout. It was revisited, and from that time till now, we've not had any positive impact as to what happened, who did what, when, and how. What have the police or the security agencies uncovered on that issue? So it tells you, and after his death, many other persons have been killed. Okay, Funshaw Williams, Harry Marshall, many of them have been killed in like manners. Okay, even the immediate ones have not been resolved, let alone the remote ones. So it tells you that perhaps there's a hand in the dark that is working against having these cases unraveled and having them properly investigated and prosecuted. So that hand that is in the dark, it is the responsibility of the security agencies to fish that hand out, okay, and do what is required of them as a sovereign state to ensure that justice prevails.
Thank you. Thank you so very much. Barrister Fred Nzako, there has been this question for years now in Nigeria as regards this issue. The question has been, who killed Bola Ige, right? And now, specifically, the court is directing the Office of the Attorney General of the Federation and, of course, the Minister of Justice to kickstart the investigation process. Do you think that right now, and at this point in time, we will find who killed Bola Ige?
Well, the issues are convoluting. Who killed Bola Ige has not been resolved. Who killed Dele Giwa has not been resolved. Who killed Pa Alfred Ewane has not been resolved. Who killed Funshaw Williams has not been resolved. And many other people whose death have not been resolved. And in all of this, the popular opinion of the people is that the government has not been fair and sincere. The security agencies have not been thorough and honest in their investigations, and the government has not been fair and sincere in the handling of all those murder and assassination cases. And I agree that time does not run against crime. Some people who committed heinous crime during the Second World War were fished out after over 50, 60 years and brought to trial. So if anybody had a hand in the death of all those Nigerians, both notable and ordinary citizens, time should not run against their criminality. They should be brought to trial, they should be brought to book, they should be brought to justice.
Okay, now
the only unfortunate thing is that I sincerely hope that the judgment or the order of the court will not be a mere academic exercise. I sincerely hope that the Office of the Attorney General will take up the challenge and do the needful.
You see, I am so glad that both of you are lawyers. And I sincerely want to ask this question. If those who killed Bola Ige, those who killed Delegiwa are long dead. Yeah, Delegiwa. I know why I'm mentioning Bola Ige here. If those who killed Bola Ige, those who killed Delegiwa, or maybe I should leave it at Delegiwa. Now, if those who killed these guys are long dead, what then happens?
The challenge is that it is not concretely known who they are. Some people could be suspected, but the concrete assertion of who killed Delegiwa or who killed Bola Ige had not been cast in the record books. So it is not easy to say that they are alive or that they are dead, because suspicion is what has carried the day. The investigations were not thorough and conclusive. A lot of information are available to the government and the security agencies were hidden away from the public. And as a result, the public would only suspect individuals or agencies of government, but there is no fine detail as to who should be brought to book in that regard.
All right, let's now wrap things up. But then, Barrister Evans, this judgment was delivered by Justice Iyang Eko. Do you think that the federal government of Nigeria is interested in pursuing this case at this point in time?
Of course, the court have made that known to the states.
It's one thing with the court and another thing with the government, you know.
Yes, the government have no reason not to pursue this case. It is for the court to do its job by making that pronouncement.
Like some feel that the current government has a lot in its hands now, instead of bringing in such a case.
No. The current government, the Attorney General of the Federation, that's its purview. The Ministry of Justice. The Ministry of Justice does not have a lot in its hands. There are a lot of departments of government. It's not the president that want to undertake the case.
No, we're looking at it. If especially if the case is somewhat political, you know.
Yes, it will be added to the workload in the hands of the state. It will be added because, in fact, in some places they will suspend some things in order to pursue this one.
Oh, really?
Because this one has to do with life. Yes, in places where there's value for life and there's value for justice, and justice is the foundation of the country.
And that's why I brought in. And that's why I brought in the government into it.
Yes, the government should not take it lightly, because the reason we are where we are today is as a result of this lackadaisical attitude when things happen. Instead of you to go back to ensure that you do justice, it is on the principle of justice that development springs from. Development cannot be anywhere there's no justice. Go and check history. Okay? This government must put these cases at the front burner of this administration and make sure that it is pursued. Because it is because the case of Delegiwa and that of Bola Ige were not resolved. That was why the criminals or those who perpetrated the acts they were emboldened. They discovered that the state cannot do anything, so they went ahead and killed more, killed the Funshaw Williams, killed a lot of people, and all that. Until today, the remote ones and the immediate ones are still unresolved. So if the state is an indictment on the state, on the sovereign, to not be able to curtail the acts of criminality using the instrumentality of prosecution to find justice in our affairs. That is why you find out that you have insurgents, bandits, many of them that have been arrested, none have been prosecuted, none have been effectively prosecuted and convicted. Okay? It stems from somewhere, it's coming from this kind of attitude. So, and the reason you have more people in criminality is because previous ones have not been resolved.
Thank you.
So that is why the government must take it very seriously.
Thank you so very much, Barrister Evans Ufeli. Now, for everyone's consumption, I want you to know that according to the court, the ADF, being the chief law officer, is under obligation to prosecute those who were linked to the death of both Delegiwa and other media practitioners in the country. The order of the court today followed a suit that was brought before it by the Incorporated Trustees of Media Rights Agenda, the one we call MRA. Now, the organization had approached the court for the enforcement of fundamental rights of media practitioners to safety as guaranteed by the 1999 Constitution as amended, as well as the African Charter on Human and People's Rights. Gentlemen, I want to say thank you so very much for coming on the show this evening.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Barrister Fred Nzako, and thank you, Barrister Evans Ufeli. Thank you so very much.
You're welcome.
And do have a beautiful evening. All right. Yeah. And everyone, well, this is where we draw the curtain this evening. Thank you so very much for being a part of the show. Thank you. My name is Jude Ikami Jude. Well, do well to subscribe to our YouTube channel at Voice of the People TV and VOP TV Live on other social media platforms. Many thanks for staying with us. Good evening.